Man, I can't believe I even need to talk about this thing. Alright, let's talk about the La Sombrita. If you've been following this channel, you know that I've used Los Angeles public transit for quite a while. I've demonstrated in many of my videos the sorry condition that the public transit in LA is. Transit users are honestly treated quite a bit as second-class citizens. The majority of train lines are light rail lines, so they're fairly slow and cannot hold too many passengers. The network itself is very sparse, so quite frequently a trip will take you an hour to an hour and a half if you're trying to get somewhere across the city. The stations and transportation vehicles themselves are often in bad conditions. A lot of the bus stops have no shelters. The train stations are often dirty and poorly maintained. I no longer live in Los Angeles, but holy shit was I tired of taking that transit system. And with this entire condition in mind, what does the metro system of the most economically prosperous state in the United States give us? Well, just one more middle finger in the form of this thing. This thing is so random and vague that with absolutely no context, I couldn't actually tell you what problem it is supposed to solve. But this thing is a bus stop shade light structure, or at least that's what the LA Department of Transportation calls it. This is Los Angeles' answer to the lack of bus shelters across the majority of their bus stops. The basic idea is that standing under this shelter provides you with some amount of shade from the sun. And at night, it has a little bit of a light fixture that turns on. Although judging from this picture, it honestly struggles to do even that. Now, before I go into the details of this story and talk about my thoughts about it, let me just say this. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. What were y'all thinking? You're telling me that from the drawing board, the brainstorming, the proposals, the approvals, the manufacturing, the user testing, the integration, the installation, not a single person said, hey, maybe this isn't that great of an idea. That not a single person in that entire bureaucratic process said, hey, maybe this may backfire if we try to sell it off as a bus shelter. When the La Sombrita was revealed, it rightfully and quickly received a lot of scrutiny online. Many people expressed their disbelief. Some showed off their city's great bus shelters. Several blog posts were written on the matter, and some of us decided to make YouTube videos. In response to the negative perception, the LA Department of Transportation made several defensive comments. They mentioned that this was a small thing that made a big difference. They discussed how they were involved in their local community and that their gender studies programs surveyed local women in the community to figure out what was ailing them at bus stops. They then laid out the actual engineering requirements that led to this decision. And as an engineer, these are the things that I actually care about. In summary, they said that this was something that was quick, easy, and cheap to install. The next several tweets that the Los Angeles Department of Transportation released actually demonstrate what were the reasons behind this contraption. The Los Angeles Department of Transportation explained that these were things that they could install without permit requirements from local municipalities. They then went on to say that these also did not impede on pedestrian walking and sidewalk rules, because more traditional bus shelters take up too much space on the sidewalk. Let's address these items individually, starting with the last one. The Los Angeles Department of Transportation stated that they could not install traditional bus shelters because it took too much space on the sidewalks, and that there wasn't enough room for it on most Los Angeles sidewalks. I'm sorry, but this is just a lazy answer. Los Angeles is the most suburban sprawl, car-centric, concrete-flattened space of land I have ever seen. You're telling me you couldn't find space for a bus shelter here? Or here? Or here? Your problem isn't that there isn't enough space. Your problem is that you treat pedestrians as second-class citizens and cannot even allot them a decent sidewalk. The right thing to do would be to expand your sidewalks and create bus lanes that allow for bus shelters. But I understand that's a long-term and honestly a pretty ambitious goal. But even in the interim, you could have used temporary expanded sidewalks with temporary shelters on them. This is something New York City does with its expanded bus stop sidewalks. And this could be a temporary solution while a more long-term plan is created. We can do these things iteratively. The perfect solution doesn't have to happen overnight. Okay, then the permitting. And I will admit, this is a hard problem. Los Angeles has 88 municipalities, and I could see why from the Los Angeles Department of Transportation perspective, getting permits for 88 different municipalities would be a laborious challenge. But that is the actual problem. That is the actual problem that we should be trying to solve. If you have reached the point where something as simple as a bus shelter requires 88 lines of municipal approval, you have overregulated. Either permitting needs to be centralized in the LA metro area, or we should not have a centralized Department of Transportation or metro system, and instead all 88 municipalities should have their own transportation network. Don't do that second part. LA is already a decentralized mess. This is a serious problem that Los Angeles and California as a whole needs to address. The city cannot continue being held hostage by municipalities that do not want public transit, that benefits the broader good. There was a time when Los Angeles was a sparse and low-dense city, and this lack of centralization may have made sense. But Los Angeles is growing, and if it wants to grow into a city of the future, it needs to start acting like a unified whole. Also, I'm tired of hearing local politicians, both Republican and Democrat, talk about grand visions of the future and how they're going to change things, and then get stumped by local permitting laws. Are you kidding me? Finally, the Los Angeles Department of Transportation talked about their gender studies program and the survey and outreach they did with their local community. Look, I'm a big proponent of social justice work, and I myself have been involved in several social justice activist groups in the past. But you do not need to spend time and money on a gender study program to determine that standing in the sun for too long causes skin damage and that standing in the dark late at night is scary. Look, I'm a skinny dude. I didn't feel too comfortable being out late at night next to a bus stop myself. I know some may think that public transit is a social issue, that it's the great equalizer that's supposed to lift the disadvantaged. But that is the wrong way to think about public transit. Public transit is a social good for everybody. It's a public good that benefits everyone. And that's the difference between how we view public transit in America and how the rest of the world views public transit. But I know what the LA Department of Transportation did. They realized they had a PR crisis and they had to come up with an answer. They decided to cushion the blow by demonstrating their good intentions. First of all, don't do that. This is the worst way to admit that you messed up. You treat your audience like they're dumb, but they're not dumb. No matter how many studies, how many graphs, and how many geometrically weird models you show them, you're not going to unconvince people of how stupid this thing looks. And I think that's actually what bothers me the most about this response, is the language that is used in these tweets. I feel like they're trying to convince me that I'm the crazy one, that I'm the one looking at this in the wrong lens. The right way to handle this would have been to say that this was a simple pilot program to gain public feedback. Admit that the shelter purpose was oversold and that this thing acts more as a way to make bus stops more obvious, which in all fairness, this thing actually does make bus stops more clear. We go from a little pole to this big blue thing. And then make a commitment to actually solve the long-term problem, which is the lack of shelters at these bus stops. After that, if we really want to make these things more useful, we can unscrew them, lift them up, flip them 180 degrees, and screw them back down. At least then, people have somewhere nice to sit. Hey y'all, thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate all the support the channel has been getting. We are continuing to grow past 1,000 subscribers, and honestly I'm really excited because I have a lot of content planned. I just need to find the time to record it all. But remember, if you're enjoying these videos, remember to like them, comment them, and maybe share them to your friends so that they also can learn how to handle a public transit PR crisis. I also always enjoy viewing your comments. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Does the La Sombrita deserve the criticism? Or am I really viewing this in the wrong lens? Anyways, I'll see y'all in the next episode.